We want connection, and we crave closeness, and we long for this love that truly sees all of us. But so often though, we men aren't the ones who are showing up. And it's not because we're careless, I think. It's not that we don't care, but it's because deep down we're terrified of what would happen if we actually let ourselves be seen. See, we spend so much time shaping ourselves into what we think will be loved by others, right? Especially by her. And in the process, we've forgotten how to actually be real for ourselves. And so we perform emotional stability when we're actually really unraveling on the inside. And we offer support when really we're the ones who are silently begging for it. And we crack jokes to deflect tension away from what's breaking inside of us. And we nod along just to keep the peace, even when our soul is screaming that something is wrong. And then we wonder why we feel unseen or unmet or lonely, even in the midst of relationships. And here's the hard truth: she can't meet us where we refuse to be honest. It's not because she's unwilling, but I think it's more so because we're never, we've never actually let her get that close to the parts of us that we're even still hiding from ourselves. See, we say we want intimacy, but intimacy actually means intimacy, right? And if we're not letting anyone see the real us, then what we're calling intimacy is just a performance in disguise. And we've been trained to think that being strong means being silent, that being good means being agreeable, and that being chosen means being easy to love. But real love, it doesn't come from being easy. Real love comes from being honest. And that's where integrity enters the room. Because integrity doesn't just mean perfection. It doesn't actually. It actually means more alignment. It means that our inside values match our outside actions. It means that the words that we're speaking reflect the truths that we hold inside. It means that we're not wearing masks just to keep someone else comfortable. And until we live from that place, our relationships will always feel fragile because they'll be built on guesswork and not necessarily truth. See, we might have someone who's willing to stand beside us, right? But the thing is, they're standing beside this version of us that we've carefully curated. And that version is polite, most likely. It's pleasant, it's predictable. But that version of us is also just half alive. I mean, he doesn't really speak up when something hurts. And he doesn't ask for what he really needs. He doesn't express what he's actually feeling in that moment. Because that version of us has been taught that being good is far more important than actually being real. But we can't keep doing this. We can't keep begging for connection while we're hiding the very parts of us that create that longing for connection. And we can't keep blaming her for not seeing us when we've done basically we've gone invisible. And we can't keep hoping that she'll heal us when we haven't even told her what hurts in the first place. That's not her fault, and it's not our shame either. But it is our work to come out of hiding, our work to come back to alignment with ourselves, our work to come back into ourselves, not just so we can be better partners, but also so we can finally feel alive in our own skin. That's the invitation. That's the risk. And that's the beginning of real intimacy. See, we've mistaken performance for connection. And we've done this for so long that we don't even notice when we're doing it. So we say what we think will land well, and we offer what we believe will be appreciated by her. And so we shape our personalities to match the woman in front of us, because deep down we fear the unshaped version won't be enough, the real version. But that real version versus the curated one, I mean, like when we commit to the curated one, it comes with a cost. The more we edit ourselves, the more resentful we become of her. And we don't always name it as resentment. We call it fatigue, right? We say that we feel unseen or not really understood or burned out. But underneath all those labels is something far more primal, and that is this quiet grief that no one ever truly met us, because we actually never really truly met ourselves. And here's where things get a little disorienting. See, we often perform the most for the people that we love the most, and we give them what we think they want from us, and we try to preempt their needs. We stretch ourselves to the point of thinness just to be their hero, their anchor, their peace. But in all of that, our core truth gets buried further. Our unmet needs go unnamed. Our discomforts get swallowed up. Our disappointments fester, because we never actually gave them language to exist. And so we convince ourselves that hiding those things is noble. That love means not burdening her, right? That strength means silencing ourselves. But the truth is this: every time that we hide our inner world, we're robbing her of the chance to love the man behind the mask. And over time, that robbery turns into resentment. And we start feeling bitter that she doesn't see our pain. And we start feeling frustrated that she expects so much of us. And we get annoyed when she seems emotionally distant. But the truth is, she can't respond to what we've never revealed to her. I mean, she can't nurture wounds that she doesn't even know exist in the first place. She can't offer presence when our offering is only performance. This is where intimacy fractures. And it's not because of betrayal or disinterest. It's more so because of absence. Not the physical kind of absence. It's more of an emotional absence. See, we are there physically, yes, but emotionally we're not quite there, not fully, not honestly, not vulnerably. And we wonder why we don't feel connected, right? But the question is, how could we? Intimacy without honesty is more of a performance. And love that has to guess is the love that eventually wears out. Because even the most caring woman can't endlessly decode a man who won't actually speak. Even the most emotionally generous partner will have difficulty keeping up with pouring into a version of us that only exists to avoid discomfort. And at some point, something breaks. And if we're not careful, we'll misinterpret that break. We'll say, she gave up on me, right? When the truth is, we never actually gave her our true selves. And that truth is painful. But it's also freeing as well, because if we were the ones who held ourselves back, then we actually also hold the key to finally showing up. And this is where integrity becomes our lifeline. So listen in. It becomes your lifeline not as a moral performance, but more so as a returning to alignment. To be able to speak what we actually are feeling and to name what's actually true. To stop asking her to be our mind reader, right? Or our mirror. And when we live with integrity, we stop outsourcing our emotional responsibility. We, in essence, stop holding our breath for her to intuit what we're too afraid to say. And we start bringing our full selves into the room with us. Not to dominate, right? Not to impress, but to be real. And when we're real, connection becomes possible again. It's not guaranteed, mind you, but and it doesn't work out perfectly, but it becomes a possibility. Possibility is what intimacy is really built on. It's one of the most painful dynamics in our relationships when the unspoken contract that we never meant to write is imposed. And it goes something like this. It goes when we say things like, I'll keep being what you want as long as I don't have to show you who I am, really. Or I'll keep pleasing you as long as you never ask more than I'm comfortable giving. Or I'll give you my attention, but not my truth. But love doesn't work that way, does it? I mean, it can't, because the moment that we exchange honesty for harmony, we've already lost both of those. So let's be clear. We're not doing this maliciously, are we? I don't think we are. We're not trying to manipulate. We're just trying to survive. We're trying to stay connected, and we're trying to avoid the shame of being too much or not enough. And many of us were never taught what emotional presence looked like. See, we were taught to perform and to provide and to protect, to be useful. And so when our partner says, I don't feel close to you, it's at that point that we panic, right? And we scan for things to fix. And then we work harder and we offer solutions that we might even get defensive, I think, saying things like, I've done everything I can, like what's left? But she's not asking you to do more though. She's asking you to be more here. Not to perform better and not to upgrade your techniques, but instead to drop the armor, to drop the script, and speak, communicate what's real on the inside. And that's terrifying because what's real might not be polished. It's most likely messy, definitely emotional, right? And it might not be manly in the ways that we were taught to be men, but it will be true. See, she doesn't need our perfection. She longs for our presence, not the kind that just sits in the room physically beside her, but the kind that brings your inner world out into the open. That's intimacy. Presence is saying, I don't know what to do right now, but I want to stay with you in this moment. Or I feel afraid that you'll pull away if I'm honest, but I want to try. Or I'm struggling and I don't have the words, but I don't want to disappear. That kind of commitment to being present changes so much, because it doesn't just open the door to connection now, it actually becomes connection. And here's the kicker. That level of vulnerability is not weakness. That is so courageous. It's the kind of emotional leadership that most of us men were never shown or modeled. See, we were taught to lead by controlling and by solving and by suppressing. But what if real leadership, like real masculine strength, was really about creating safe emotional space between two people? Not just for her, but for us as well too. The thing is, we've been starving for this for so long. We're starving for this version of masculinity that doesn't exile our feelings, that doesn't equate vulnerability with failure. This version that doesn't turn us into like shells of ourselves just so that we can be accepted by someone else. See, we can be strong and soft. We can be fierce and tender. We can be leaders who don't perform, but who actually show up. And that's integrity. That's intimacy right there. And that's what really creates relationships that don't just survive, but actually begin to transform us. Because when we stop hiding, we stop resenting. And when we stop performing, we stop panicking. And when we stop withholding, we finally start being able to receive. See, we become men who can be met because finally we're here. There's a moment in every man's journey when we finally realize this, and that is what we thought was keeping us safe was in actuality the very thing that was keeping us separate. It was our silence, our composure, our emotional control. Now, these may have served us once upon a time when vulnerability felt dangerous or punished. But now they've become walls that we no longer want to live behind, right? And here's the hard part. We may have built those walls because we were taught that showing our truth made us weak. Perhaps we learned very early on that crying got us mocked, and that expressing confusion got us a lecture, and that needing comfort made people pull away because you were too much. And so we adapted. We learned to anticipate others' needs instead of voicing our own. And we learned to smile instead of to speak up. And we learned to nod instead of saying, no, I don't agree. And it worked. It worked until it didn't. Until our relationship started to feel empty. Until the love that we were receiving felt really disconnected from who we truly were. Until we felt like strangers in our very own lives. And now we're tired of pretending. We're exhausted from always being fine, right? We're starting to feel that ache that says, isn't there more than just this? And the truth is there is. But it's only if we're willing to tell our truth. First to ourselves, and then to those that we love. And here's what that could potentially look like. It looks like saying, I'm not okay, without apologizing for saying so. It looks like asking for help without turning it into a joke. It looks like admitting when we're scared, without masking that with anger. It looks like naming our needs clearly instead of hoping that she'll just figure them out. That's not weakness. That's mastery. That's courageous, because the man who can speak his truth with gentleness is the man who's no longer afraid of being real. And when we show up in that way, when we show up fully aligned, honest, and present, something incredible happens. And that is, she starts to soften as well. It's not because we're manipulating her into doing so. And it's not because we're actually using our vulnerability as a tool. But it's more so because safety breeds safety. And presence invites more presence in. And our emotional honesty becomes the very foundation or the ground where both of us can now stand on, where there's no more guessing and there's no more tension that's wrapped up in silence. Now there's just truth and the ability to breathe freely and to connect. This is the kind of leadership that we need more of. Not control, but clarity. Not dominance, but a commitment to depth. Because intimacy is not something that we're owed. It's actually something that we're opening up to. And we open to it with integrity, with this self-awareness, with this courage to bring our full selves to the table, even when we're not polished, especially when we're not polished and feeling vulnerable. We think that we need to be healed before we can be loved, right? But perhaps the real healing starts the moment that we stop hiding. Maybe the thing that we've been chasing isn't her per se and her validation. Perhaps it's our own return to our wholeness. And that return does not require anyone's permission. It requires only our willingness. Willingness to tell the truth. Willingness to stand in it. Willingness to build a life where love doesn't have to guess anymore. This is how we move forward. Not by being perfect, but by being here. See, the man who withholds his truth is often the same man who wonders why he still feels alone. Not just lonely, but alone in the deepest way. Alone in a room that's full of people. Alone in bed beside someone he cares deeply for. Alone even in love, because no one has really met him. They've only met the version that he is presenting. Now listen, this is not about shame. This is about awakening. Awakening to the ways that we've learned to self-abandon ourselves, to suppress what was real for us, to exchange intimacy for approval. But the version of us who keeps the peace at all costs, the version of us who avoids discomfort in the name of love, who edits his own heart basically down to what feels agreeable to others, that version is not whole. That version of us is tired and disconnected, and he's not actually connected even to her. He's just performing next to her. And that's no way to live. Because what we really want, like what we've always wanted, is not to be impressive. It's not to be powerful. And it's not even to be adored. But it's that we can be known. We can be known deeply and honestly and in a safe way. To be in a space where we don't have to earn presence, but we get to experience it. We don't have to trade our vulnerability for validation. So we don't have to even hold our breath just to be loved. But you see, none of this is possible in the connection front if we're not the ones who are making it safe to begin with. See, we can't ask her to meet us where we won't even go ourselves. We can't ask her to hold space for our feelings that we never have even named to her. And it's not fair for us to resent her for not seeing what we've buried and suppressed for so long. This is where the transformation begins, I believe. We stop asking women to read us. And we stop performing for intimacy and instead start practicing it. And we stop outsourcing our healing and start instead returning to our truth. And as we do these things, we begin to experience something profound, and that is, we were never unlovable. We were just unreachable, unreadable, because the mask was blocking the mirror, because our silence was far louder than our hearts, and because the performance that we were doing was drowning the real man who is underneath. But the thing is, he's still there. And now we have the opportunity, we have the chance to bring him home. Not for her, and not for the relationship's sake, but because we deserve to live unhidden, fully seen. And from that place, from integrity and intimacy, we become magnetic. Not because we're chasing love, but because now we're embodying something that's even deeper, and that is wholeness and clarity and presence. That's what makes women feel seen when they say, I trust him. That's what creates that sense of safety and attraction. That's what creates legacy. And we're not here for half-truths. We're not here to perform safety while silently we're crumbling on the inside. We're not even here to impress. We are here to be real. And when we're real, love does not have to chase us. It actually finds us. Because now we're findable. Now we are reachable. Now we're present and here in a full sense, in an honest and courageous way. This is not weakness. This is not passivity. This is what power is. And it's not just the kind that gets noticed, but it's also the kind that transforms every room that we walk into, every heart that we touch, every woman that's been waiting, not for the perfect kind of a man, but for a man who is committed to being present and here. Let me know if I can explain anything more for you in the comments below. But I hope this has served you well. It's a courageous move, and I beckon you to come and embrace it.